Welcome back to a long-awaited episode of my beloved series Who Killed Who, where we uncover secrets in slasher movies. I'm Zero, and today, guys, I'm finally looking at Season 2 of MTV Scream, released in 2016. Season 2 of Scream takes place a year after Piper Shaw was revealed to be the perpetrator of last year's murders, and follows Emma Duval after recently being released from a mental health facility due to the trauma of last year's events. She moves back to Lakewood in an attempt to live a normal life, but her return also brings the return of the Lakewood slasher, who begins threatening her and her loved ones once again. It also puts more of a focus on Emma's friends, particularly Audrey Jensen, who is trying to cover up her connections to Piper while the killer pursues her as well. Season 2 unfortunately had much lower viewer ratings than Season 1, but it is expected due to Season 1's mixed critical reactions. I actually consider Season 2 the best season of the series to date for multiple reasons. It's a lot longer than Season 1, which means we get much more time to learn about both our familiar and new characters this time around, and the story is also a lot more tight and sharp than Season 1. It also has a much more graphic and innovative kill sequence, and a much more balanced murder mystery aspect. I'd say my only gripe with this season is who the killer ends up being, because it genuinely makes no sense if you think about it for a while, but hey, everything else about this season is fantastic and deserves to be recognized for what upgrade it is to Season 1. Season 2 is also the only other Scream media to feature one killer besides Scream 3, and that probably makes you wonder how the hell I'm covering this season. Well, time for a fun fact. Audrey Jensen was originally supposed to be Piper's accomplice in Season 1 and the sole killer in this season. It was confirmed based on a scene from Season 1 where the showrunners themselves confirmed it was Audrey under the mask, and it's a scene where Piper and Will Belmont are attacked in the abandoned bowling alley, but it was changed to Piper and Kieran at the last second, which is why Season 2 had different showrunners due to creative differences. Because of this, we're just going to be having a little fun and assume that Audrey was Kieran's accomplice in the season, since that was also a confirmed theory. Alright, makes sense? Cool. Not including the Halloween special, which I won't be talking about, Scream 2, not to be confused with the Boar Festivus sequel, had a total of 10 kills this time around, which is nowhere near the top spot, but still an impressive feat nonetheless. The deaths are Jake Fitzgerald, Eddie Hayes, Seth Branson, Deputy Dwayne, Haley Myers, Zoe Vaughn, Mayor Maddox, Deputy Stevens, Eli Hudson, and Kieran Wilcox. Our killers this time around are Kieran Wilcox and Audrey Jensen. Kieran was Piper's supposed accomplice in Season 1, and originally he was donning the mask due to his devotion to Piper and falling victim to her manipulation. Season 2, he just wants revenge for Piper's death. Audrey, on the other hand, wanted Emma to suffer eternally for breaking her heart and throwing her out like trash. These are motives we've seen before, but for what it's worth, even if I don't love Kieran as the killer, I think both characters do a great job at the roles they're given. Alright? Without any further ado, I have been waiting so long to say this. Let's get into the kills. Jake Fitzgerald is a jock played by Tom Maiden, who was Brooke Maddox's boyfriend in Season 1. He was one of the most loved characters in the first season, so the fact that he was killed off so quickly in this one is very sad. I thought Jake was a total asshole, but he's played very well by Tom Maiden, who was also in 13 Reasons Why, which, for some reason, a lot of the cast of MTV Scream was, but oh well. Anyway, Jake's death happens when he goes to visit the old abandoned farm near the crossroads, a frequent plot point in Season 1 and in this season, and ends up getting attacked by the killer when he knocks him out with a metal baseball bat after getting his foot caught in a bear trap. He wakes up sometime later hanging upside down from the ceiling of the farm, and the killer slowly approaches Jake with a scythe before disemboweling him in a brutal-ass kill that is by far one of my favorites of the entire Scream franchise. It's hard to say which of the two could have killed Jake because they both had valid reasons for wanting to. Kieran wanted Jake because he wanted Jake to realize that he's not invincible just because he survived the events of Season 1 after getting a brutal stab wound that just barely missed his lung, and Audrey wanted Jake dead because she fucking hated him. Based on the way this kill was set up though, I'm gonna have to give it to Kieran. I don't think Audrey would have been strong enough to carry Jake's body and hang him upside down, and I definitely don't think she would have been able to swing the scythe on him in such a fast and brutal succession, so this first kill goes to Kieran. We went 3 more episodes after the first one without getting any kills, so it's nice to see such a brutal death occur after all that build-up. Eddie Hayes is a clerk at the Crescent Palms Motel who was manipulated by Audrey to keep his mouth shut about exposing her connection with Piper to Noah, who wanted to interrogate him about Piper's accomplice, and supposedly Piper and her accomplice stayed at the motel. Eddie is called up to the room of Kevin Duvall, where he was staying when he arrived back to Lakewood, to bring him a corkscrew for a bottle of wine he had ordered, supposedly. When he gets to Kevin's room, though, nobody is there, so he goes inside. He walks in to see all of the furniture and flooring covered in plastic wrap, and when he goes to investigate the bathroom, the killer appears from under the bed sheets and smashes the wine bottle over Eddie's head, which disorients him greatly. Eddie begins crying for help, but the killer turns up the radio in the room, which is playing The Longest Time by by Billy Joel to drown out Eddie's screams. Very artistic. He begins crawling away, but the killer drags him back towards him and proceeds to stab the ever-living fuck out of his neck and back with a corkscrew. Holy shit. He then lifts Eddie by his hair and drives the corkscrew into his throat one last time, which causes blood to pour out of the side of his neck. Oh my god. The killer then drags him into the bathtub and leaves. This is an insanely bloody kill that is probably my favorite kill in the entire show. It's artistic due to the song choice and insanely gory too. I actually have reasons to believe that this kill was performed by Audrey. Audrey was the only one who knew that Eddie knew something about her connection to Piper, obviously, and killed him in order to keep him quiet about it since he was almost about to confess everything to Noah. Good work, Audrey. This shit is fucking nasty. Seth Branson is a 10th grade English teacher at George Washington High who was revealed to be having a predatorial affair with Brooke Maddox in season 1. He's played by Bobby Campo, who was in that god-awful Final Destination reboot, and while he's not a great person, he's a really interesting character that I'm glad got explored as much as he did. Seth bites the bullet after he is lured into a hotel room by Brooke, who interrogates him about Jake's death. When Brooke leaves, she leaves him blindfolded and handcuffed to the bed. His blindfold is removed by the killer, who proceeds to literally saw off his hand with his knife and cauterizes it with a flat iron. He's not dead yet, though, as he is brought into the school and left on the floor for Kristen Lang, the school guidance counselor, to find. The killer attacks her, but misses the stab, and the killer ends up inadvertently stabbing Seth instead. After Kristen is knocked out, the killer drags Seth to the Ren Lake Estates where Emma and Eli are, and sets him in the bathtub with Eddie's body before burning the entire place down. Seth Branson was killed by Kieran, in my opinion, because it makes the most sense. Audrey arrives to the school just after the killer leaves and is the one to find Kristen on the floor, and I feel like it wouldn't have made much sense for Audrey to put on a facade since nobody was there in the school near her. Good job, Kieran, you sick fuck. Deputy Dwayne is a co-worker of our main cop character, Sheriff Acosta, the father of Stavo. He's played by Patrick R. Walker and is killed when he is sent into the Carnival Funhouse to look for Emma after the killer lured her in there to save Kieran. When he enters the funhouse, the killer begins slowly stalking behind him, and when he radios to Sheriff Acosta that he has eyes on Emma, he looks behind him to be confronted by the killer, who grabs him by the throat and tosses him through a nearby mirror. It was actually left ambiguous for a while if he died from it or not, but Walker himself confirmed that Dwayne died in this scene, so womp womp. I have to say that this kill was actually done by Audrey. The reason why is because prior to Dwayne's death, Emma received a video call from the killer showing Kieran tied up inside of the funhouse. Because Kieran was tied up, it is only possible that this is done by Audrey. Kind of a lame kill, but since Dwayne was a lame character, it makes a bit of sense. Haley Myers is our halfway point kill. Haley was a recurring character in this season, and she was the one who was fake stabbed by the fake killer in the opening scene in an attempt to prank Audrey. She was played by Mary Catherine Duhan and basically her only known role. When Emma confronts Haley at the secret invite-only party that was set up by both Haley and the killer at the abandoned orphanage, and tells her that she set it up with the killer, Haley assures her that it's just a friend and goes back to the back of the orphanage to replace the box of masks she was giving out. As she puts the box down, the killer appears behind her without the mask on, but obviously we can't see him. Haley goes to romance her special friend, but the killer pulls his mask down before she can give him some romance via mouth service. Ooh. The killer pulls out his knife, which scares Haley and makes her start to run. The killer swings his knife towards her and she dodges it, but he's able to grab her and throw her on the ground brutally, before stabbing her in the chest and stomach multiple times in a very quick succession. Damn. This is a cold-ass kill that I would excuse you for believing that it was done by Audrey, since she was the main target of Haley's torment, but it was actually done by Kieran. It makes the most sense since Kieran was her special friend, and probably would have been very bitter towards Audrey if it was her that approached Haley. Plus, why would she try to give Audrey the Sunday night special? That wouldn't make much sense. Zoe Vaughn is a love interest turned girlfriend of Noah, who met at school after she confessed to Noah that she's a huge fan of his podcast. She's played by Kiana Lead, who's more well known for being a musician than an actress, since she hasn't been in anything notable other than Scream. Trigger warning, by the way, because Zoe's death is incredibly sad and distressing, so don't say I didn't warn you. Leading up to Zoe's death, Noah was attacked and kidnapped by the killer, who was buried alive beneath the abandoned farmhouse by the killer. The killer drops clues to Audrey and Emma as to where Noah is, and tell them that Noah only has 2 hours of oxygen left, and will die quicker if they decide to alert anybody about Noah. They eventually find him, but before his casket is removed, a box containing live feet of Zoe buried alive underneath Ren Lake is found, water filling up her casket. They end up rescuing Noah, who is in critical condition, but insists on not going to the hospital until Zoe is found. When they get to Ren Lake, they find a cord connected to Zoe's casket and pull it up until her casket is surfaced. When they open it, they find Zoe dead, and it's revealed that the footage wasn't actually live and that she's been dead this entire time. It's a heartbreaking death, especially with the performance that John Carna gives here. Sad stuff. This might be unpopular, but I actually think that both Noah's attack and Zoe's death were done by Audrey. The farm where Noah was buried was more significant to Audrey than it was Kieran, since it's where Emma and Audrey used to go every day as kids. And what if known the significance of this far better than Kieran. I think Audrey wanted to keep Noah alive and have Emma find him, but wanted Zoe to die. Not because Zoe and Noah had sex, but because she was always suspicious of Zoe, and was aware that she knew everything about Audrey's connection to Piper that Noah knew, since Zoe heard the entire conversation. Kieran being involved in this one wouldn't have made much sense, since he would have just killed Noah right off the bat, since he was about avenging Piper. Audrey, however, wanted to put Emma through the misery and suffering of finding one of her best friends in order to keep him alive, but that's just me. Mayor Quinn Maddox is the mayor of Lakewood and the piss-poor father of Brooke Maddox. He's been frequently known as a selfish liar when it comes to Brooke, and does everything he can to cover up the dirty secrets of Lakewood, understandably. He was played by Brian Batt, a series regular in the AMC series Mad Men. Mayor Maddox is lured to the abandoned barn to meet his mysterious blackmailer, who is revealed to be Eli Hudson early on. He yells to the blackmailer that he's here and tries to send him a text. When he does, he hears a phone buzz from nearby, and continues sending texts to the phone and walking towards it so he can locate it. When he does, he discovers a picture of the killer holding a pitchfork. He looks behind him and sees it in the flesh when the killer impales him through the torso with the pitchfork, before dragging him across the barn and impaling the pitchfork deeper into his torso. The killer hides when he hears Emma and Audrey come in, and they find Quinn on the ground, who pulls the pitchfork out of his torso in front of the girls and drops to the ground, dead from blood loss. The cops find Emma and Audrey, the pitchfork in Emma's hands, and are arrested under suspicion of Quinn's murder. Obviously this one was Kieran, since Audrey was on the way to the barn with Emma when the murder happened. I don't really have any other explanation for this one. Yeah, thanks. Deputy Stevens is pretty much a nothing character who was only in 2 episodes of this season in a very minor role. He's played by Hunter Burke, who is also only has Scream as his known role. He drives Emma and Audrey to the police station shortly after arresting them for Quinn's murder, and Audrey insists that they didn't do it, but Stevens ignores them. The killer appears in the road in front of them and yells for Stevens to watch out, who swerves the car into a pole and crashes into it, surviving due to the airbag. When he gets out of the car, the killer runs up to him and stabs him in the stomach before slamming the front of his body into the car and stabbing him multiple times on the side and rib cage before he falls to the ground dead. This is a surprisingly brutal kill for an even more nothing character than Deputy Dwayne. Impressive. We're getting into boring territory now because, spoiler alert, these next couple kills were done by Kieran. But like the last one, this one was done by Kieran since Audrey was with Emma in the car, and he did it so Audrey and Emma could escape and make it to the third act for the big reveal. Second to last on our list, we have Eli Hudson, the cousin of Kieran Wilcox, who moved to Lakewood last fall after taking an interest in the town's murderous past. He's played by Sean Grandillo, who, like Keanu Reeves, is more well known for being a musician. He was also romantically interested in Emma, but it was unrequited since she was with Kieran at the time. Eli's death occurs when Emma and Kieran come across each other at the abandoned orphanage Piper lived at as a kid, and when they realize the killer lured them there, Eli arrives and tries to convince Emma that Kieran is the killer. Eli claims that Kieran is the reason he had to move out of Atlanta and into Lakewood, because he framed Eli for stalking an unnamed girl and posting revenge porn of her online. He says he moved to Lakewood to get revenge on Kieran, and when Kieran tries to convince Emma that Eli is the killer, Eli charges at Kieran with a knife, but Kieran shoots him nearly dead. Kieran goes to untie Audrey, who was kidnapped by the killer, and an offhand comment makes Emma realize that Kieran very well may be the killer. At first, Kieran tries to deny it. Actually, he doesn't really say anything, but realizes he's not getting out of this, so he confirms Emma's suspicions and shoots Eli dead. Do I even have to explain this one? It was Kieran, obviously. Alright, now, that covers all of the kills from the main 12-episode run of this season. However, there is a bonus kill that I want to talk about, one that's been the main source of thousands of fan theories and debates. Kieran Wilcox himself. Kieran Wilcox, the boyfriend of Emma Duvall, was revealed to be the killer of Season 2. He's played by Amadeus Serafini, who has been in a couple slasher movies since Scream, so good for him. However, unlike most Ghostface killers of yesteryear, he actually survives this time and gets put in prison for his crimes, sentenced to 10 life sentences. After he gets put in prison, a third Lakewood slasher rises from above the vent in Kieran's cell and kills the security guard watching over. He unlocks Kieran's cell, and Kieran utters the ambiguous phrase, "Alright, you kept your word, so you're gonna tell me who you are?" before the killer slits his throat and stabs him in the neck, killing him once and for all. This kill in particular has been the main source of thousands and thousands of fan theories, all discussing who could have been behind the mask in this kill. Kevin Duvall, who is Emma's father, is the most popular answer. However, my guess is that it was Audrey. Here's why. My theory is that halfway through Season 2, Audrey was working with Kieran, but she wasn't doing it to get back at Emma, hence the scene where Kieran is kidnapped by the killer. My guess is that halfway through the season, Audrey wanted to kill Kieran and take the spotlight as the sole killer because she wanted to erase any and all of her connections to Piper. Obviously, Kieran already knew her connections to Piper. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, cool. Well guys, there you go. Who killed who for Scream Season 2. I know this is a long-awaited video, and thank you guys so much for waiting so long for it, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Until the next one, my name is Zero, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.